Hey, what's up, Raiders? This is Bill back here with a Raid Shadow Legends video, and today Plarium released some of the notes on our 4.20 patch, and they released some new champions today. So I thought it might be cool to take a look at some of these kits and have some reaction video here. And we're going to take a look at the first 4 of 10 new champions in part 1, and then check out video part 2 coming out soon with the Shadowkin champions. So we're not going to look at any of the Shadowkins today. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Geomancer, the Dwarf, Rule, the Huntmaster, and Helior, the Bannerlord, and Gorolos Helma, the Demon Spawn. So let's take a look at these kits. Alright, first off, we're going to take a look at this Epic Dwarf. And I heard, some people comment they usually put the legendaries up top. So there might be something special going on with this champ. We know he's not part of that fragment event because that's for Rule the Huntmaster. Maybe this has something to do with the new missions. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully we'll find out here pretty soon. So let's take a look. Geomancer is an epic force affinity attack dwarf. Right? Some love for that dwarf faction that's starting to get pretty strong now with Brogni out there. A lot of us have Brogni with that grinding fusion, right? And Melga and some of the others that have come out recently. So we're going to take a look at his kit as a attack type force affinity. So his A1 is going to attack all enemies. Love those AoE attacks, right? 30% chance, and when you book it, it's going to go up to a 40% chance of a 50% decrease accuracy debuff. Now we're seeing a lot more of these decreased accuracy debuffs and some things. So you might be looking at this change in meta with the Doom Tower having these high accuracies and resists and all this different different gear requirements. So that's kind of cool. This A2 definitely had me raising an eyebrow earlier. Right, we're going to move all buffs from a target enemy and then attack them. That's awesome. You can pull those. I'm assuming that's going to count your shield buff. It's going to pull those, defense increasing and all that kind of stuff away. Boom, gone. And it's going to steal the buffs instead if that target is under an HP burn placed by this champion. When I first saw that, I got super excited. I run a lot of HP burn on my teams. But if you read the way that's written here, it says placed by this champion. So I don't think this is going to work on HP burn debuffs that are generally placed by, say like your Tyrant, your Ultimate Gaelic, Juliana, whatever HB champs you might be running. If that debuff gets on there first, he's not going to be able to pull off this, this conditional ability. And this also will reduce the cooldown of Quicksand Grasp by 2 turns if the target is killed by this skill, while under an HP burn placed by this champion. Right, so he's really going to lose a lot of the abilities of this skill if he has other HB. Wow, get it together, right? If he has other HP burn champions on his roster with him, and even in the dwarf faction, you have Bulwark, and I feel like there's at least one more that places HP burns. Maybe Brogni does, and so you got to watch out for that. That's gonna kind of fiddle with his synergy a little bit of who he's gonna work really well with. And unfortunately, though, also his HP burn is only gonna come on this A3, right? Unascended. It's gonna fully deplete the target's turn meter, and a 75% chance, 100 when booked, of an HP burn. And a 25% weaken debuff on that target for 3 turns. That's a strong HP burn, and you can get up to 100%. That is on a 5-turn cooldown. Well, you can book it down to 2 turns, or 3 turns. You can book that down. Ascending, you're going to fully deplete that turn meter. You're going to fill this champion's turn meter by the amount the target loses. So that could be really significant, almost an extra turn right off the bat. And you still get the same percentage chance of placing that HP burn and a 25% weaken on that target for 3 turns. And then he does have a passive and an aura. That passive is going to decrease the damage of all allies received by 15% and deflect that damage onto each enemy under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. Whenever this champion is attacked, deflects 30% of the damage instead. So again, we're seeing that those debuff conditionals with the HP burn, it has to be his HP burn. So keep that in mind when you're putting this guy in teams. Increasing that ally HP in all battles by 25%. At all battles, 25%. That's really nice. We love those all battle auras. Moving on to our second champion. Now, we've all seen a lot of previews on Rule the Huntmaster. He is going to be the fragment champion for this upcoming fusion event, where we're going to be grinding out some fragments to get this guy. Spirit Affinity, Tack type Dark Elf. Really sick looking thumbnail. The artwork I've seen on this guy is pretty cool. You've always got to kind of give it to Plarium for that artwork, right? And we're going to take a look at his kit. A lot of what I've seen for me personally in my account, it's really kind of lackluster. So you're going to make that decision if you want to go after this guy or not and put that time in and the resources into your account to try and get this guy. So on that A1, you are going to be looking at attacking one enemy, 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense, that's the big boy decreased defense, for 2 turns, and transferring a random debuff from this champion to the target if you're under a hex debuff. Right, we're going to see a lot more conditionals here again. As we talked about with that HP burn maybe changing some of that meta, this hex really looks like they're trying to introduce this more into some of the new champions to kind of change those strategies a little bit and make champions work together a little bit better. Unleash the Hunt on that A2 is going to attack all enemies, placing an extra hit on enemies under hex. And it will ignore 25% of each target's defense if there are 4 or more enemies under hex debuffs. This could be really powerful in some of those spider dungeons if you had an AoE hex where you can lay that out on all the spiderlings and or even the ads in some of the other dungeons and just start free savage right there, right? It's really conditional though. Stalk Prey is A3, is going to place a 50% increase accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, and then place a hex debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Also places a Perfect Veil on this champion for 2 turns, and fills this champion's turn meter by 50%. A lot of cool stuff going on there. You can book that down to 4 turns. That's a nice little turnaround on something that's going to do a lot of buffs and debuffs both ways on everybody. And then he does have a passive that decreases the speed of enemies under hex debuffs by 5% and decreases the resistance of those enemies by 10%. Also increases the damage enemies under hex debuffs receive by 10%. And increases the damage by 10% and decreases the value of heals by 30%. Right, so that passive is going to work a lot on that hex, and that's going to be something that's going to be up all the time. That makes that really starts to kind of make that debuff really special. We saw some of this, I think, when Frozen Banshee came out, and you started seeing that poison sensitivity. But it's taken a long time for more poison sensitivity champions to come in. Hopefully, the hex is something that we can start seeing in more champs more often. Right, and we're going to have an aura to increase that crit rate in all battles by 20%, and which can free up a spot maybe to throw some crit damage gloves on instead of crit rate gloves, and buff up some of your other stats. And we're going to take a look now at Helior or Helior, or however you want to say that, I guess. He's got legendary Force Affinity defense type champion for the Banner Lords. All right. And he's got a nice looking little thumbnail. I love that, like that gold halo he's got going on behind his head, maybe an explosion or something. His A1 is going to attack one enemy and increase this champion's defense by 5% if the attack is critical. Right, now this is kind of cool because that'll stack up to 20%. And remember, he's a defense type champion, so not only are you increasing his tankiness, you're also increasing his attack ability. and that's going to go stack up to 20%. Right, so if you can get that up to 20% in 4 turns, now it will also heal this champion by 75% of their defense after attacking, if the defense has already been stacked. So that's a really cool little A1, especially in a sustained fights, and we're seeing more and more of those longer sustained fights in Doom Tower and coming up for Dungeons 25 and that kind of stuff. So this might play a little bit better than it looks like on the surface. His A2, Solar Blessing, attacks all enemies, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns to 20% of the damage inflicted. Now I wonder, I would assume that there has to be total damage if you are attacking 5 bad guys. If you're attacking 5 enemies or 4 enemies on an AoE hit, that shield debuff, the way it's written, I would read that as being 20% of that total damage, right? Not just the damage you do against one guy. So you want to really kind of think about that too, because that could really bring a really nice shield on like your second turn or your third turn in, when some of those other shields start to wear off, and your champions are starting to get beat up a little bit. And Harsh Light is going to transfer all the debuffs from all allies to a target enemy, then attacks that enemy with the default skill. So you can take everything on there, all those poisons and decreasing defenses and all that kind of stuff, everything off of your whole team, a full cleanse from your whole team, and you're going to put all that onto one target and then smack him, right? And this also converts this champion's resistance into additional accuracy with using this skill. So that's going to be really cool, because we're starting to see we're building champions with higher in resistance now, and sometimes it can be really hard to get both resistance and accuracy. Well, this one is going to thump for both of those things, and his other 2 skills do not need accuracy to hit. He has a passive. Again, his passives we're seeing this, like, I think that's on every one of these champs. We'll see if it's on Helma down here. Intercessor, whenever an ally that has 2 or more debuffs is attacked, this champion will absorb 30% of the damage inflicted on that ally. And he's going to increase our resistance by 60 in all battles. So I really like this guy. He looks pretty cool. And not only does he look like he's got some nice power to him, but his kit isn't as conditional as the first 2 we saw. Right? I don't see a lot of ifs and that kind of stuff in the language written here. He just really seems to have a nice kit that really works very well around all of his different skills. And now Gorlos Helma, that guy has a sick looking helmet. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be his face or a helmet, but that is pretty wild looking. I can't wait to see what this guy looks like in game. He's an epic champion, spirit affinity, attack type from the Demon Spawn faction. So our Demon Spawns are going to get a little meatier here. Let's see what we've got. Hungry Shafts attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit fills this champion's turn meter by 10% if the target is under decreased defense, HP burn, or decreased accuracy debuffs. So any of those three, and you're going to be getting, I'm guessing it's probably just 10%, not for each one, but you're going to get a little turn meter boost for having those debuffs on. And his A2 is going to be a Raging Hunger, attacking all enemies. 75% chance, 100 if booked, placing that decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So that already is going to synergize with his first A1 skill. And then we're looking at Gnashing Fangs. And again, I don't know if that's supposed to be his face or a helmet, but there are a lot of teeth there. Attack 1 enemy, 75% chance of placing an HP burn debuff and a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 3 turns. Then fills this champion's turn meter by 20% if critical. And he will increase ally attack in Doom Tower by 30%. So we are looking at, I like his kit. I like that it's not as conditional, and he can do these things himself or with his allies. This guy here, Helior, looks pretty sweet. I like him a lot. He's probably going to be hard to pull, right? Legendaries are always a little more difficult to pull. Ruel looks cool. I don't know if I'm going to go for him in the Fragment event. I'm a little bit burned out from Brogni, and that was quite the adventure. Right? And this guy here, I was really excited about him until I really read the language in his kit. I think he's a cool champ. I just wish that the debuff placed by this champion language wasn't in there. To me, that makes him a lot less attractive as a regular utility champ, because I run a lot of HP burns. So for my account, I'm not too excited about this guy. If I was going to rate the 4 of these, I think I would say Helior is my favorite, Gorelos number 2, Ruel number 3, and Geomancer number 4. So check out part 2, where we're going to look at the Shadowkin champions. Happy raiding. Stay safe out there.